Well, on this eve of Thanksgiving, we are launching into the final run of 2022. Turkey Day tomorrow, and then the full holiday season is here. And Idaho election officials are also ready to wrap up their major business for the year. Remember the election a few weeks ago? Good, yes, that happened. And remember the results we had that night and the day after? Well, those technically were not the final results, as we'd like to tell you here, but technically the final results are being solidified this evening. But before election officials across Idaho can put the 2022 cycle to bed, they do have to audit the results per a brand new Idaho law. So how did Idaho do in the audit? We checked in with the largest county in the state to see how the audit went and why it matters. As the year winds down, it's time to put the 2022 election cycle to bed.
Following the 2020 election, there's been a lot of questions about how elections work, making sure that the results are accurate. It's really important that voters have confidence when they go to the polls that their ballot counts.
To help ensure that, clerks like Ada County's Phil McGrain are a part of a brand new process, an election audit created by a new Idaho law.
So these post-election audits are an opportunity for the state to go through and just check our work, make sure that all the clerk's offices who conducted the election, that everything adds up and that everything is accounted for properly, and most specifically being able to do a hand count of some of the ballots and compare those hand-counted results to what we reported on election night. So it's just a validation that everything's working properly.
The audit process selected a sample of small, medium, and large Idaho counties. Those counties selected randomly. And from there, it's right into the audit action. Ada County was selected in the random draw, so Clerk McGrain and his staff got to watch an audit of their work from the Secretary of State's office.
And I'm happy to report both the audit in May as well as the audit in November did exactly what it's supposed to, and it confirmed that the process is working well.
So what did the audit find in Ada County?
We had a one-vote change, so they audited and hand-counted 1,754 ballots. In that process, there was one ballot where the machine, when it read it as what's called an overvote, meaning there was markings in multiple choices on the same question, where the auditors, when they looked at it, they could easily determine voter intent, and so they counted it as a no vote. They were checking the constitutional amendment in this case, and so that was the only variance that we saw in the audit, and that's a really good indication that things are working as they're supposed to.
McGrain says the new process shows transparency in action, a crucial step to maintaining public trust in elections.
When you look at it, out of 1,700 ballots, right, you have this one change. I think it's a really good sign that the system is working. We always like bringing people in to see the process. That includes the auditors in this case. So the Secretary of State brings in a team of auditors to come and check our work, but they also have members from the Democratic and the Republican parties participating in that process. So it's a great validation, both for the political parties as well as just the system overall, that things are working the way they're supposed to.
Clerk McGrain is in a unique position as the Secretary of State-elect. He got to watch firsthand the process he will be on the other side of during the next election cycle. He says he still has eyes open for possible improvements.
The lens that I look at these things is a little different, especially looking at these audits, knowing that it's going to be a responsibility I'll be taking on here soon. Looking at how we can improve the process, I think there are some things that this year was the first time doing it, so there's a lot of lessons learned. You know, for example, Bonneville County was audited on Saturday just because of the time crunch. I'm hoping this legislative session we can adjust things a little bit so that clerk's offices don't need to open on a Saturday in order to do these audits. But I really do think the audits were a big success in terms of demonstrating Idaho's election system works well. The county clerks who do this work really hard to make sure that every voter's vote counts.
And McGrain tells me that this afternoon, the Idaho Board of Canvassers met to go over final numbers and checks from around the state. But this really will put the whole cycle to bed here in 2022. So, as I say, onwards and upwards to 2024.